All
Welcome,
right.
everyone, to the Full Spectrum series. My name is Nick Valentino. I am an assistant director in the Hajim School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at the University of Rochester, and I am your host for the series. This is the fifth year of the Full Spectrum series, where we invite faculty to discuss and explain their fields in an effort to inform and educate prospective and current students, parents, and alums on problems that engineers and computer scientists are trying to solve. Today, we are going to discuss audio arts and technology. It's a newish major in the Hajim School. Our guest is Dr. Stephen Roessner. Dr. Roessner earned his PhD from the University of Rochester. He is an assistant professor of electrical and computer engineering at U Rochester and has a joint appointment at the Eastman School of Music. He's a Grammy-winning engineer and has owned and operated Calibrated Sounds, his own recording studio, for over 25 years. Professor, thank you for being here. Please tell me if I got any of that wrong.
No, it's all right. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. You got it all
The
correct. Yeah.
research team here came through very good.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you really have a great deal of responsibility on campus, so we're really grateful that you can teach us more about audio arts technology. So, can you give an overview of audio arts technology, where it fits in the Hajim School of Engineering and Applied Sciences?
Yes. So I think I'm going to just share some slides here with you all today, to kind of go through the different major paths that we have. We've had an audio music engineering degree for about over 10 years now. And now the new audio arts and technology degree is a new offering. It's kind of a spin-off of the AME path. So I just want to kind of clear up some confusion between the two, talk about some opportunities that there are after that, after you graduate. And so just to kind of clear up any questions that someone might have about the two programs and the differences between them. So let me share my application. So we can just walk through like this. We don't have to do a full, presentation, if you will, with every bullet point coming up. It just make it real simple. So this is just a very simple, brief overview of the two programs. So why do we offer two similar programs? We in the program, in the audio music engineering program, started seeing that students were kind of not, they just weren't succeeding at what they wanted to do within AME. And so then they would transfer out into like a more music focused or perhaps digital media studies or other programs on campus. And so we were like, okay, well, how can we keep those students here? Because they were really talented. They were really enthusiastic about being in the studio. They just weren't, really psyched about the math or physics components. So we offer a audio music engineering degree is a Bachelor of Science, and that's accredited by ABET. So every engineering school should be accredited by ABET, and so we go through the ABET accreditation for that degree. The Audio Arts and Technology degree is a Bachelor of Arts. That requires no accreditation, so we don't have that. But both degrees are a way to study audio engineering in completely different ways. You will take students or you will take classes together between both programs. So you'll have students that are AME majors and students that are AAT majors in the same classroom. But they lead to different opportunities in future careers, and that's the big take home here. So audio arts and technology, we'll start there, is a Bachelor of Arts. So the AAT path is more for students that would go to quote unquote creative fields. Now, I don't want to say that engineering itself isn't creative because it is incredibly creative to be a really good electrical engineer or mechanical engineer. But these are the more traditional creative arts fields. Studio production, sound design for film, television, and games, broadcasting, podcasting, even live sound, other music industries. I just met with a student that wants to do more music business type stuff. So, meeting with them on like how to direct their career and their choice of classes here at University of Rochester. The AAT major is new. We're graduating our first students this coming spring. Now, these are students that were AME. And then we came up with this AAT, and they were just like, hey, I want to do that. I want to flip because I don't see myself being a software coder or a hardware design engineer. I want to work in a studio, and this will lead me to that path, quicker and more efficiently. But the program itself offers a high degree of flexibility. Now, the AME degree historically has been one of the highest credit degrees on campus as far as degree requirements. And so that that works for a lot of students. They come in as a first year and they set it out and they know exactly what they have to take and in what order. Um, and so, but other students were like, "Wow, that's a lot of credits," and and so they wanted more flexibility in their schedule. That's we kept getting that from many students and that comment. So this program AAT has way more flexibility. So if you wanted to do a double major in digital media studies or studio arts, English, history, anything like that. Brain and cognitive sciences would work well with this degree. You have more flexibility to do that and pursue a different path. So with 54 credit hours, the major, most of those are offered as under the AME course catalog. There is a small requirement of math and one computing because we do want you to understand some of the math because my courses, even though they're intro to sound recording and recording production, I have to talk about acoustics. I have to talk about electrical engineering a little bit. Now, I'm not going to give you a whole bunch of equations to memorize and a whole you don't have to derive equations or things like that. But I do present some math. There are logarithms. I usually warn the students about that. So that's the audio arts and technology, the newest path. The older path is the audio music engineering, which is a Bachelor of Science. So that path is a comprehensive program in acoustics, electrical engineering, audio recording and sound design, and software design. It's been offered since 2014 and it has a very well-established alumni network. In fact, today we are hosting an alumni that came back from Moog. He works for Moog Music, Moog Synthesizers, and he's giving a talk this afternoon. Um, so it requires 32 credits of science and math, 16 credits each. So you can do those in high school. We accept transfer credit for a lot of those, or if you go to a community college and knock some of that out. But here, if you come here first year and you haven't done any of that, expect to take 4 semesters of math and at least 2 semesters of physics. Those other 8 credits of science can be filled in with other science and engineering courses that you have to take. Um, but those fundamentals then lead you to create chips, design software and hardware in audio fields. So it's still audio focused. And you're getting that background in sound design and studio recording. So you understand why you're making that microphone, why you're designing that compressor or equalizer. Um, so we have built up this program, and it's one of the few in the country that actually does this as an undergraduate program. Um, all right, so what paths are available to you after graduation? Where does that lead? So AME, most of our majors who are audio music engineering majors have gone on to hardware and software design. They've studied acoustics, DSP, which is digital signal processing. They become engineers in that. So they go work for Google or Meta, processing audio. They can go into recording studios, recording, mixing, mastering studios. They can go into sound design. And typically, our graduates of AME do go to grad school. A lot of them go to grad school in electrical engineering or acoustics or other scientific fields. Like I said before, we have a really big alumni network at this point. And they work at places like Bose and Fender. Harman owns like JBL speakers, a whole bunch of other companies in audio technology. Moog, I've already mentioned. Eventide, which is a hardware and software manufacturer. And Aberrant DSP is actually a company that 2 graduates formed. And now it's a multi-million-dollar company in digital signal processing. So they graduated in 2019 and went off and formed a company and did it, right? Um, so the AAT major, those paths again are a little more on the artistic side. So those we can see students moving towards, again, more studio practices, sound design, music industry. So if you want to get into sync licensing, we do have one student that graduated years ago as an AME major, but now is in sync licensing, which is basically getting your music on television and video games and film. So we do have contacts that students that just like, the science wasn't for me. I want to go more industry. Broadcasting, podcasting. And then you can go to grad school in business or music, other humanities, things like that, if you choose. So again, we don't have the alumni network yet built up in AAT, but we're graduating 3 students this spring, and so they will be our first, and they will be our first alumni out there in the world, and hopefully they will do well. Uh, all right, next slide. Our facilities. I just want to point out our facilities. We have world-class environments for engineering and learning. We have 2 recording studios. There's 4 mix rooms and a 40 computer sound design and audio software design lab. There's a synth lab with 50 different synthesizers, actual hardware synthesizers. We're not talking about on a screen. You can actually put your hands on the keyboards. We have an immersive audio research lab. We have a couple actual electrical design labs and senior design labs where students can do prototyping and hardware design as well. Let's see. Oh, and we're opening a podcast studio very soon. Hopefully spring 2026. That's the goal. Um, you get to learn from people like me. Like as Nick said in the introduction, I'm a Grammy Award winning audio engineer. I still practice, I still record a lot, I still produce, and I still play music. And that's pretty similar across all our faculty here. I've listed some of the awards here, but Rob Levake, he's one of the best keyboard players I've ever seen in my entire life. Still plays out. Mike Heilman is a guitarist in a cover band, and plays guitar. He's fantastic. Xiao Duan, he still plays music. He's still very active, but he's a leading researcher in artificial intelligence in audio and in music. Um, Sarah Smith still plays cello with the orchestra. Minglun Lee is director of a chorus. He's like, we all still really love what we do in music and audio. And I think the students know that. They walk into the classroom and they know that we're passionate about what we're up there teaching about. Um, the learning environments. So just so you know, if you come here as a student, the largest classes in our program are around 40 students, and that's what the computer lab is. It's a 40-person computer lab, sound design and software design. And those are probably the largest courses within the AME AAT major that you will encounter. My classes are limited to 30 students. That's all the room I have in the recording studio. So it's a pretty small environment. Um, most professors are instructional track in the AME program, so we're focused on your education. Um, many of us do research topics. I've kind of fallen off on that because I want to focus more on the teaching side. But Professor Heilemann, he's really, really involved with research and takes on grad students and advises them. So it just kind of we leave it up to every professor to choose for themselves what they want to focus on. But there are opportunities for undergraduate students to participate in research alongside the professors and graduate students. I know during the summer, Dr. Smith usually takes a few undergraduates to do research with her in acoustics. Um, so labs are smaller. So most courses in the Hajim School in general, in engineering, you have the lecture component, which could be a 40-person classroom, but then there's smaller labs that you have to take. And so those labs are broken up into smaller groups so that it's more hands-on and more time with the professor or the TAs. And then, like I said before, there are summer research opportunities. As long as we get our research funding all figured out, we'll take on a few students over the summer so they can get a feel for what it is like to do research. All right, and I've got one more slide. Uh, and that slide is why choose Rochester over other schools. As I said before, AME is one of a handful of undergraduate programs in the United States that offer a Bachelor of Science with heavy electrical engineering background in audio. Um, Many of those AME graduates have chosen to stay an extra 3 semesters to earn their master's degree here at University of Rochester, continuing their education. Um, I didn't really talk too much here, choosing Rochester over other schools as far as the AAT program. But the AAT program is, again, it's new. We're going to see how students react to it and what they choose to do and the paths they choose to go. But we'd be excited to see where you go with that, and we will help you. Um, we really try to emphasize as faculty and staff to a fun and inclusive learning environment. So students are engaged in their concerts and events, research, special talks, invited talks. We have a few student groups that are focused in audio engineering or just record and music production. And so I serve as advisor for those programs and those social clubs. Um, and there's just a music scene here. I mean, I'm part of it. Like I said, I still play music. I have a band. I go out and I play about once a month. There's Eastman School of Music, obviously down the block, and a lot of our students take classes. So the students in Hajim can take not courses, but individual lessons at Eastman. And Eastman students can take our courses, so it's a nice overlap of everything here. And then there's school ensembles, there's a cappella groups, and then a lot of students just end up forming their own bands and playing shows. So I just wanted to kind of give that, why choose this over other schools. We have a lot going on here, and there's a really special vibe to the program and to the school. All right, so I'm going to hand it back over to Nick. I've been talking for a while, and Nick's going to ask me some questions apparently. So I'm going to stop sharing, and here we go. All right.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Like, it definitely was a comprehensive overview. I mean, it's, with the changes that have happened, this is part of my first question. So you have electrical and computer engineering, which is very old in terms of its history here. And then the need grew, a little more than 10 years ago for audio
Mhm.
and music engineering. It's around when I got to Hajim, so I have some remembering of this. Can you talk about, I know a lot of students and parents are worried about new, right? But
Mhm.
can you talk about how it grows from electrical
Mhm.
and computer engineering to audio? Like, how many people need to get on board? Does this become
Mhm.
like someone's project? Because I know it's an extensive process to get it as a major, but can you talk a little bit more about how it came from electrical and computer engineering?
Yeah, so I came here in 2010 to do my master's degree. And so I came from a background of audio recording and music production. Before this, I worked at Juilliard. I was a recording engineer at Juilliard School of Music in New York. And before that, I worked at MTV Networks in New York City. So I've had quite a career in just being immersed in audio production. So I came here because I was like, I want to do an electrical engineering master's. And in that time, I became a TA, obviously. You have to TA, as part of grad work. And I TA'd for a course for a professor. And that professor, just he became ill. He had some medical stuff. And so I kind of took over the course a little bit for that semester. And, I had a lot of fun doing that. And so Professor Mark Bacco, who's the program director of audio music engineering and AAT and many other things, and was department chair at that time for electrical engineering. Um, he said to me, "Do you want to teach a course in audio production? I'll give you some money to build a studio, quote unquote." So he found some funding, gave me some money, and we turned one of the labs into a recording studio here in the computer studies building. A lot of the professors on the floor were not happy about that, and I totally can
How did you
empathize
get
with that.
space? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And the loudness. They were not happy with
No,
bands
yeah,
being recorded. Um, but they were very gracious, for putting up for it for a few years as we got this program started. So, in reality, the AME program really began, I would say, 2011. Um, we started offering courses, and we brought in Rob Levake, because like he was who we were buying some equipment from. He was our local Pro Tools rep. And through conversations with Rob, wow, he's a really good musician. Oh, he does sound design. Oh, he does composition for advertisements. Like, oh, let's bring him in as an adjunct. And so both he and I kind of started there, and with Mark, we kind of formed this major. We were like, okay, how can we turn this into something that's different? So we looked at competition. We looked at other schools that offered an audio recording program. I'm a graduate of SUNY Fredonia. I went to their sound recording program and I loved it there. But that's a music-based program. And there's a lot of those music first sound recording and audio programs. And Mark wanted to make something that was electrical engineering focused. And so that was what it was born out of. And so, again, we kind of, um, we started this and we had a couple electrical engineering students, and actually there was three of them. There were three electrical engineering students that became our first AME graduates
Mhm.
around that time because they took enough courses. And so there's similarities here with the AAT program being new. Um, so the AAT program, like I said, we have three students that are going to graduate with AAT degrees for the first time. And out of that, it just became, wow, this is a new thing. And even though it's new, um, the students were really excited about it. They would come into class, come into the school and say, "Wow, that's a interesting path." I may have come in as mechanical engineering or something like that, and oh wow, there's something that is audio and science focused together, and that program grew from that.
I'm a college advisor for one of the AAT students, and
Yeah.
it was almost like, oh, finally, this is what I've been looking for this whole
Mhm.
time, and didn't even realize it, which really was a great experience to have in somebody because I feel like a lot of the time the prospective families are greeted with three things when they say music. All right, you're going to be a music teacher, you're going to be
Yep.
a performing musician like at Eastman, uh, or they're like, or you're going to end up not doing anything about it. And I love the idea that this brings so many different parts out of it. Just one more part I wanted to, before I want to ask you is, I remember the flat panel speaker that was
Yeah.
designed in your program, and it being all the work and effort that it took to make this small speaker behind a painting, right? And so,
Yep.
forgive me if I'm getting, tell me if I'm getting this wrong. But
No,
then it
you're
was like,
right.
well, what does it look like? All the other parts of the creative design part were not exactly the same skill set as the engineer. Is that what
Yes.
this is going to be able to be doing for students?
Yes, I think that's an apt comparison there because we have the heavy engineering,
Mm-hmm.
math, science, acoustics, bringing all that knowledge. That's a different skill set, as you said, than actual product design or marketing or how it's used in the field, all those kind of things. One of my favorite talks I gave an invited talk at a conference called DAFX, DAFX, in 2019. And um, I was in a room full of software coders that make the tools for audio applications. And I'm talking about how I use those tools. And multiple questions were like, wait, that's how you use it? That's not how we designed it, but that's how you use it. And I'm like, yeah, creatively, I'm going to use it in this way. So there's a really nice symbiotic relationship between the two programs that can happen here. And so we're excited to see how AAT grows in that space to make it more about the other use cases of this equipment that maybe a student designs within AME and then how AAT major would use it later.
Uh, One of the slide that you had with the different recording resources they had on campus. One of the things I really like, it does show the progression, right? Like one just gets bigger than the next and the next. So that is the direction we're going, which I think is
Yeah.
really promising. Can you talk a little bit about, because I know that you advise students, um, how this will blend with the open curriculum. For the open curriculum being the students have a major, they have to
Mhm.
do two clusters, mini courses, and then they have a lot open in their schedule to be able to fill it. Can you talk a little bit how about the AAT students would benefit from that?
So the AAT major and those students, there's a way more flexibility than there is with AME. Uh, I keep coming back to AME just because to make the comparison, but AME generally if student comes in and says we want to be audio music engineering majors, we get them on that path immediately because it's 4 years of really kind of they have to stick to a strict schedule. Whereas with AAT, students can come in and they can try history, they
Mhm.
can try psychology, they can try brain and cognitive sciences, they can try all these other different paths, and still, even in their second year, when they have to declare their major, they can say, "I want to be AAT,"
Mhm.
and we can still get you graduated in 4 years.
Great. I have a question about recording. So I know that you've been doing this for over 25 years, it seems. Uh, it seems that recording is an exercise in patience. But can you tell me like the hardest part about not just the technical side, but the working with the person who is the musician or performer or whoever it is? Can you talk a little bit about your experiences with that?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, I'm giving out, advice here, which I usually say for my students in class. So, but that's okay. So to be a good audio engineer is you have to be a good person, first
Mm,
and foremost. People will come to you and work with you because you're easy to work with in the studio.
mm,
Um, but sometimes in the studio, you're entering a dynamic that you don't know what you're entering really. Say a band comes to me and say, "We want to work with you. Like we want to record this new record." Great, let's book it. I'll see you in 2 months, and we'll enter the studio. Now, I may have had conversations with one or two of the members of the band at that time. I may have attended a rehearsal or two or gone to see them live and seen the dynamic of the band. But you don't really get the intricacies of the relationships until you enter the studio. And sometimes your job as an engineer or a producer in the studio is to kind of play mediator between egos and band members, which can be difficult. Um, that takes a very tactful, an awareness of just human nature to kind of work with those bands. Now, luckily, I haven't worked with bands that are extremely difficult or made me leave the studio or fired me or anything like that. And nothing like that has ever happened, like real seriously, but there have been moments of tense,
mm.
where the drummer gets mad at the singer or the guitarist isn't getting the tone they want because ultimately they're in there to create their art and capture it. And there's multiple stressors about this, right? Um, when you make a recording, that's it. Like that's the recording everyone will know from then on, you know.
That you
No
have
one
to
cares
play, yeah, that you have to play word for word and note for note when you perform live the exact
exactly.
same way as
Yeah,
you guys
exactly. No
recorded.
one no one cares if you re-release it or if you do a live version generally, unless you're Grateful Dead or Fish
Right,
or,
right.
Dave Matthews Band or people like that. Generally it's like that one recording, that's it. And if you don't nail it, that's a lot of stress in the studio. And so people will get stressed out. And that's one thing about recording that most people don't you can learn microphones, you can learn EQ and how to mix and Pro Tools and everything else. But if you don't also learn how to work with people and work within groups, you're not going to have a good time in this field.
I like how you refer to the idea that it's so special and it's finite, right? The idea that you're hitting this recording. I was thinking about things like the Beatles "She's So Heavy" where it cuts out at the end. I remember asking
Hmm.
my dad what happened. He's like, "Well, they ran out of tape," and I'm like, "Well,
Hmm.
did they fix it?" They're like, "Yeah, no, push on." Or
Yeah.
the old time rock and roll where they did the intro and it ended up being a loop, and it's the most memorable part. It is exciting to know that like you could hear the inside part of something that becomes very popular and just know what happened when you heard that little
Hmm.
noise or bump or whatever. You're like, oh, this is when this guy pushed over the
Yep.
that's really cool. I wanted to go back. I got a couple more questions for you. So we have a lot of students who either in their first year or second year, or even the ones that are prospective students. Can you talk about when you were 18 years old and sort of what your impressions were of audio and music? And how do you get to here? I think is a lot of the time what the students want to know.
Okay. So yeah, we're gonna walk back through history here. I'm gonna talk about how old I am. Um, so I was in high school, and my junior year of high school, I was like, I I don't know which path I want to go. I had two choices in my brain. One was meteorology. I had a very deep love of earth science and weather. Still do. Still, it's kind of just like an interest of mine. And then I was like, well, I want to do something musical. Now, a few years before that, I had started just, my friend had a tape deck with a microphone input. It was just a single, it wasn't a four track or anything. It was just a single tape deck that you could plug a microphone into. And I was in a punk band at the time, and I was just like, okay, we're rehearsing in my parents' basement. I'm just going to set up this microphone. And what I started doing, unbeknownst to me, was I started placing the microphone around the room to see where I could get the best sound, the best balance. Basically, what you had to do in 1940s, 1950s, it was arranging the instruments in front of a singular microphone. So you put the louder instruments to the back, quieter instruments to the front. And so but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just experimenting because I was, 14 at the time. Um, and so um, I I knew that there was recording. I knew that there were things that I could do in that path. And around the time of my junior year in high school, I discovered a that the band room had an 8-track cassette deck. And it was just in a closet. No
Yeah.
one was using it. It was just in a closet. And so I asked my band teacher at the time, Mr. Smales, I said, "Hey, can I can I take this out and like hook it up and record the band?" And he was like, "Yeah, go for it. Why not?" So there were a couple microphones lying around, and I learned how to use that machine. And I was like, "Oh, that's really kind of cool, and that's interesting." And and so it just kind of snowballed. And then I learned that there were a couple of programs that offered this in college. And so when I was 18, I went and auditioned at SUNY Fredonia. I auditioned at Potsdam, Ithaca College. I wanted to stay in New York State, so I
Mhm.
wasn't too far from family. But I ended up going to Fredonia for a dual major in music performance and sound recording because even at 18, I couldn't decide. Did I want to do performance or sound recording? And after about a year at Fredonia, I was like, you know what? I will finish the music performance because I'm crazy. Um, and I still like playing percussion, but m my passion is in the studio. I loved being in that environment and just staying up late and working on records and mixing. It just was something that spoke to me at the time.
That's great. The
Yeah.
so in that going back forward to contemporary, what do you think is the next big thing or wave in your field in
Yeah.
recording that's going to be what people should be paying attention to?
Well, yeah, I actually there's one thing I didn't address, and that's a question that you said. What was the field like at that time,
Mhm.
right? And so I just want to speak on this a little bit because it's kind of happening again. So when I was in early years of college, digital audio recording became more uh, uh, um, more usable and more reachable by the average musician. Before that, you had to go to a recording studio. You had to record a tape. No one at home really had a tape recorder and like all the microphones you'd need. So you'd pay for money to go to the studio. Well, now in the year late 90s, early 2000s, everything shifted. And so it was shifting. And so then we saw a whole bunch of recording studios close, really, really famous ones. I had friends that interned at Sony Music Studios in New York, and that closed down. Hit Factory in New York closed down. Power Station in LA closed down. So there was a whole bunch of big, major studios that closed their doors around this time. And so when I graduated in 2004, I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. I really didn't,
Yeah.
in my career. So what did I do? I hopped in a van with my friends and we toured the US playing music. So I did the irresponsible thing. Um,
Always a good
but
option, right? Because
it
you
was a
know
good
you're going to
option.
get
I
right.
didn't have a job lined up and I was like, okay, well, let's go play music for 5 months and see the world essentially.
Yeah.
So, it offered, a good career path, in that time. Um, but what I saw was that even with that new technology, musicians then came back. They were like, "Oh yeah, I can record at home. I can do this all myself." And then they were like, "Wait, that's too much work.
Yeah.
Oh, I want my ear isn't trained enough to do all this engineering, and like I can do it, but I I want to hand that off to somebody else who can do it better." And so the industry then shifted back. Musicians were like, "Hey, I'll record myself at home, but
Mhm.
the mixing, mastering, I'm going to leave that to the professional." Or they'll be like, "I'm tired of this, all my vocals and guitars sounding like it's recorded in my bedroom. I want to record in a proper studio." So it all came back. And so right now we're at a point where there's a push and pull between in audio and music specifically, going to immersive sound versus keeping it stereo. Stereo will not go anywhere. Stereo
Mhm.
is going to be around forever because that's still the default playback system for everybody. But now there's a push to like, okay, how do we make this immersive? So now there's immersive headphones, Dolby Atmos, you get your AirPods Pro put on, and you can be involved in an immersive experience. And so a lot of our students are now curious about that, and we're starting to teach those theories here at U of R as well. So that's the next forefront. Um, there's obviously there's worry about AI, there's worry about those kind of things in the audio industry, and some things are going to get replaced by AI. But I don't think it's going to go away. I don't think audio engineering, the human ear is is needed in those steps along the way. If we just make music or if we just blindly make a podcast with no host and just generate a host, it's going to be unlistenable. And
Yeah.
we'll all start to be like, hey, this is just bland. It's not enjoyable, right? So,
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. I appreciate it. So going, if somebody who's just finished watching this, what is the next step that they should take in order to become more knowledgeable or interested in this, or what sort of someone says, oh, okay, I'm in. What do they do next?
all right, I guess it depends on where you are in your college exploring process. I would say visit a few schools. Don't get a real feel for what the school has to offer. Make sure you talk to students in that program as well as the faculty. So one of the things I always try to do if I have a student that is interested in meeting with me, I give them the tour. Here's our studios. Here's our stuff. I try to line up a student that they can talk to for at least a little bit. I'll leave the room too. Like I'll just say, you talk to each other for 15 minutes, get a feel for what it is. I don't want to use up all of our students' time either, but
Right.
I think that's a really important thing to know going forward when you're looking at colleges, because faculty and staff have a very different viewpoint of what it's like to be in college, in the college that they teach at. I have no idea what dorm life is like or really what the intricacies of student life. I don't know. And so you need to ask those questions of those students and really walk around, the university, the area that the university is in, and really take it in and understand what is offered to you by each university. And I think that's the best piece of advice. So as far as like next steps,
Mhm.
and if you're watching this and you are a sophomore in high school or second year in high school, you got a little time to think about it. If you're a junior, now's the time to go visit those schools. And if you're a senior, get your butt going, because you got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And if college is a decision and a path you want to go on, I really just think you need to be really proactive and go for it. Yeah.
Great. Professor, thank you so much for your insight and spending this time with us. It's really, really, really appreciated.
Of course, I'm happy to be here, and I do want to say that if anyone is watching this video, and they want to reach out, feel free to email me. I try to respond in a good amount of time, but sometimes it takes me a few days.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the Full Spectrum series, it explores other areas such as biomedical, chemical, audio and music engineering, and much more. So please feel free to visit our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. On behalf of the Hajim School, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you soon.